And you know what? It doesn't
Why was
matter
Russell
what I
Poole
think.
removed
I'm
from
a
the
writer.
task force, Mike? Of course there's claims. An investigation was done on him for misconduct. He was removed from it, and those are just the facts. Now, listen, I'm not saying Russell Poole is a bad guy. I'm not saying he's a malicious guy. I'm saying he failed in being objective on this one particular case. Maybe he did a great job on everything else he did. I didn't know Russell Poole, and maybe he has a lot of friends on the department that support him. That's great. I'm simply saying that on this particular case, he lost his objectivity and he fell short with his theory. That's it. It's not a personal affront. It's not a personal attack. It's just a pure objective comment about his investigation. So I'm not maligning him. I'm saying that the work he did in this particular case didn't meet the standards of an objective investigation. It's just that simple.
So I'm going to read to you what Russell Poole wrote about Murder Rap and about you. Greg
this is interesting. So this is interesting, Mike, that you criticize me.
You're going to let me read this? Are you going to let me read this?
I will.
Let me read
First of all, listen.
Are you going to let me read this?
I will, Michael.
Don't interrupt me.
Okay.
Are you going to let me read this? Let me read this.
Read it.
Greg Kading has no credibility on this subject matter. He became a task force member on the B.I.G case 10 years after the fact. Kading left the LAPD in disgrace for his false testimony on a federal murder and racketeering case, United States versus George Toros Ramos, CR 06-656A SVW. Guilty verdicts were overturned in part due to Kading's testimony. He said LAPD cleared him of those charges, but that is not entirely true. Kading also had some help writing his book from disgraced LA Times reporter Chuck Phillips. Kading forgets there were actual eyewitnesses to the B.I.G killing. He spends a lot of time talking about things he knows nothing about. This is a desperate attempt for Kading to salvage his reputation. Suge Knight is a suspect, but not for the reasons Kading talks about. In closing, Kading never attempted to interview me regarding the B.I.G investigation. He makes a lot of false statements about me and my part in the investigation. Retired LAPD homicide detective Russell Poole.
That's interesting, Mike. That's really interesting. Those are Russell Poole's perspective. But you just got done saying, hey, Greg, how dare you malign this guy, Russell Poole? But yet, at the same time, you can say it's very fun, it's completely acceptable that Russell Poole will malign you. And because he said it, it must be true. And this is where you lose your objectivity. So Russell Poole has these feelings or these perspectives, which are all untrue, factually untrue, but nonetheless, because he puts that as a review on my book, you assume that, well, if Russell Poole said it, then it must be true. And that, this is just, it's an unfair and unobjective way of approaching your case, Mike.
Well, the objective way that I approached this case was with Russell Poole's case files, all of the Wallace civil trial files, all of the Frank Alexander secret tape recordings, and various other documents and interviews, including the FBI FOIA released documents.
Okay,
and
fine.
It all paints a pretty big picture.
It certainly does if you want it to paint a particular picture. You can take the selective information you want from that whole, plethora of material and then say, here's my conspiracy theory and here's the pieces that match up. But what you don't do, and where you guys fail, is that you don't also include all the information that compromises that theory. Now, everything that you just suggested that you have, I have. Our entire task force had all of the investigative material, plus